We're on.
We're on.
Elthon.
Here.
Pritchard.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Teben.
Here.
Elhouse.
Here. First on the agenda is recognition of visitors. I did not. Jim, you got any words? Okay. Next is consideration of agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of it. Okay, is there a second? Been moved by Dr. Nyman, secondary by Mr. Elton to approve the agenda as printed. Comments? Otherwise, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Hearing of delegations? Again, I'm hearing, you can see anything. Any comments on the computer?
Nothing.
Okay, we'll move on to business. Here. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved. Ms. Stevens, second by Mr. Pritchard, to approve the consent agenda as printed, except for withdrawal of the Pritchard bill for $87. Is there any discussion, questions, or administration on anything else here? Hearing no further questions, all those in favor of approving the routine consent agenda as printed, except for extraction of the Pritchard bill, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Now entertain a motion on the Pritchard bill.
I move to take a Pritchard bill for $87.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, it's been moved by Stephen, second by Dr. Nyman, to approve the Pritchard plumbing bill for $87. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Abstain. Okay, motion passes 4-0 with one abstention. Mr. Pritchard. Okay. Next is the public hearing for the pre-grade contract.
So this is the opportunity for anyone from our community to come and speak if they have concerns or questions about our pre-grading package.
Okay. Are there any questions, concerns? Okay. At 5:34.
Just turned
Sure.
5:34.
I got one that says 5:35, so.
No comments.
Okay. Where are we approving that contract? Is that down here?
3.03.
Oh,
Maybe not.
okay, no further comments. I'm going to adjourn. Fine. Move on to design development phase 3, construction presentation. Next.
So I think that DLR, Eric Barron with DLR is going to begin. Get a whole team that will help So,
Do you want the mouse? Yeah, do you want to
Yeah.
put it over closer to him? Oop, right there, right there.
there you go.
You want my mouse there?
Thanks for having us again this evening. So last time we were here, we talked a little bit about schematic design, and where that was just bringing to you kind of the overall concept. Talking about the overall concept of the program, there was some budget information discussed, and
Oh, here. There you go.
And so what's happened in that time period is more project development of the overall building concept. As you just saw through the public hearing, we did issue and bid and pre-grading for the building pad itself. So what we're going to go through tonight is our design development still. This is an in-depth seal of all the different aspects and facets of the building. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to talk a little bit about just some high level components of the agenda here, and specifically the design, and then I'll jump back in and we'll talk a little bit more about the other aspects of the project. So, air mesh schedule has several user meetings, mechanical, electrical, technology, interiors meetings to really help kind of refine the scope as we move forward. We're going to jump down to the images here. The exterior images that we presented at the last meeting, some of the feedback we heard was just talking about some of the colors on the exterior, so we're going to be updating that. So pulling that in and moving away to some of this more bluish green, blue colors on the exterior of the building. So that's some great feedback to have, but we're going to make some updates on the exterior elements. And then I think one of the bigger things that you're going to see as a conclusion from the design development phase is a little more on the interior color. So we had a interior presentation where we walked through the space, looked at the floor plan, talked about finishes, talked about colors, themes, really trying to apply some maybe color theory to how these environments could be supported by the really rich learning environment for students. So here, everything from carpet tiles to vinyl tiles to countertop materials, really the whole spectrum of materials are being. So taking into account aesthetics, durability, first cause, maintenance costs, all these things. These are three different colored zones within here that help with wayfinding for students. So think about these learning environments as a cohort of students and staff working together. As they progress through the years, through their learning neighborhoods, they're experiencing some different color tones and values throughout. And then always coming back to some of this green color here that really ties back in with the district colors, which at the front entry will have for sure some and color schemes. Color concepts, core finishes, a little bit hard to see here, but I think on the PDFs you decipher some of the different color tones being used throughout the wall color and additional finishes. And then a little bit easier to see here is some of the initial renderings. Since our meeting, through the conversation we had, some of these are going to change a little bit. But again, this is design development. We're kind of refining and refining to get to the final product. So at the front entry, you're going to have a one experience. So you're going to come through a safe and secure entry vestibule, be greeted here, and have access to one of those two comments we're seeing is the ability to incorporate the color in this environment, a lively, bright area. We have a lot of access to daylight where you see, we decided to see some of the outdoor learning environments, outdoor play areas.
And then through the left and through the right, you actually go into the name. Small group learning, large group learning environments. To your right, you're seeing the media center, or the library for access to content and behind us there's a steam lab. There's some transparency out, a lot of openness and openness for students. Staff as well as staff. As we move into the learning environment, so this is one of the discovery spaces that we're calling them. Is this tunnel areas or think tank areas within the middle, yet good connection visibility to the whole class. Flexible seating, seating at different heights will be incorporated to help provide some differentiated learning environments throughout. Bringing in daylight from above to help provide a great, rich learning environment that has the benefits of natural light. Look and turn into one of the core classroom areas. Classes, make sure hard surface, soft surface, foreign materials, access to cubbies, basement storage. You're seeing kind of a primary teaching walls and secondary teaching walls, and then access to their this within that learning suite. This type of environment is very similar from classroom to classroom. And then when you look at grade level, we're incorporating not only the floors, finishes, but also the wall finishes as well. That helps change the experience for students, so it's not the same throughout their tenure building. Discovery spaces is pre-K one specifically. You're seeing similar types of environments. Again, small group rooms. The students need some additional testing or need to work one-on-one with a paraprofessional. They have that ability to do that, and then good access and sightlines from the classroom into these areas, just to help have lines between have full classroom area, flexible shared learning environments. I think for a lot of different types of learning activities, it really gives the teachers resources at their fingertips that they can use to help meet. One of those discovery areas, similar types of environments, but articulated in a little bit different way. That's kind of big stuff to work through the details, finer details of site plan, site layouts, the floor plan for all intents and purposes has not changed. In there was after we met with the user groups for the adjacencies, the location of all the spaces.
The other big development, as of last week, we had some, we talked about these user group meetings. So meeting with the mechanical staff, we had an opportunity to sit down with your community facilities director. Also looking at a site plan. So the last time we talked to you, we had a couple of different opportunities for layouts for that. Down, I mean, you can join. Just sent out to Sydney, so we'll keep that out to the questions about things. We got those of you that we anticipate having, you know, in the very near future, just about building codes and things of that nature. And the other things that just for all of you, we have the PDF with you, but we've kind of scratched the surface here with about 23 pages of kind of the stuff that everybody likes to see, the nice stuff. But there's another 1,000 pages of all the technicals that we've been looking with plan construction on. It's great reading if you have insomnia. But those are all the technical pieces of how to start to get your project actually built and the quality that's behind it. So we've begun that design development stage. What we're asking for tonight is that construction. Take all that information to the next level. And again, we have more detailed coordination way with the city and making sure that what you see here is communicated in a construction document that a contractor can then take and so that's kind of the high level from the design standpoint and what has changed from what you've been review on your way out tonight. We do have physical samples. It's always hard to see on the projector and the screen sometimes colors. But in the back table here, we have some samples of carpet, some tile, paint. Suggestion touching feel it. Any questions about what you've seen or positive, negatives, things that
I'd like to have a little feedback from Otter. Otter, this is like,
It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's reflective of the teachers' feedback. Andrew has been an amazing leader in hearing our staff really, really well. Mariah, our designer, heard everything we asked for and has done a really, really nice job. Each user group that's met has made some tweaks and changes. And then, we all want the moon and the stars, but we've also adjusted. There may have been a floor conversation where Nick said, which one's cheaper? Okay, that's what we're going with. And so, yeah, there's some of those things that we've been able to adjust so far. I also think that it's been huge to have all those stakeholders be a part of those conversations. Our PLC leaders came, our media specialists, our music teacher, our art teacher, our secretaries, and they've still been stewing and adding ideas too. So I really think it's a culmination of a lot of people's hard work. I think one thing that I really appreciated was the way that they use some of the greens that we can use with branding when we enter our gym and our entryway. I think branding is huge. We're going to be proud of the little corridors. So that's awesome. Red is not the best color for Little Pumpkins. Much more calming. And it really became a neutral in here too, which was really, really nice the way it rolled out. They were super responsive about the carpet. It's a really, you can walk over and feel it later. It's like a foamy carpet, but it doesn't stain because we also know Little Pumpkins. Everything from the finishes in the bathroom to how tall sinks and toilets are, they've been really responsive on. So I cannot wait for 2 years to come.
that I want to move into a kind of secondary discussion related to kind of costs and overall.
I cut
how
this.
the topic was progressing from there. So I've got just a little supplemental presentation to go through here.
Which one? There's G2 or G?
Without the two.
Without the two. That one. Great. I have.
We have these slides placements in our.
These? No. Where's the play at? Oh, it's cut off on my screen. That's why. Nope, I lied. There it is.
So we've been continuing with the file information since last week. So you do not have this in your packet. This is informational only at this point. You have the budget information within your packet. And this is really just kind of a supplemental breakdown. Some of those things, just to explain a little bit about the market. So we continue to work with Lang and kind of put together some cost evaluations of things. But if you haven't turned on the news lately, I know it's kind of depressing sometimes, but what you should be paying attention to is the construction market and the cost. Inflation, it's here and it's kind of uncontrolled right now. So some cost history information that we have over the past 10 years, the analyzed cost inflation has averaged about 4%. Some years it's higher, some years it's lower, but annualized, we've kind of figured out that it's about 4%. When we budgeted for your project prior to the bond referendum, that was in October 2020. We knew that there were some cost pressures that were happening at that time. That was, at the time that COVID was really kind of getting a foothold. But we didn't have a full understanding of what that was going to be on the market. And so as an inflation adjusted cost per square foot, $235 per square foot was anticipated for the project. That's where we were based on historical values. Portion of the current market, local and national, is really just continues to be volatile, ever changing. Everything from chips and cars to paint to drywall to steel, everything is just in flux. If you can get the product, it's super expensive. If you can't get the product, it may be paperwork, but you won't get it for a longer period of time. So we're just fighting this constantly within the market during the last 6 months or so. We're continuing to have conversations, clients have conversations every day with different vendors, with different suppliers. So I just went out and the Associated General Contractor sent a nice little piece here that we together in June, which is still applicable today and probably even worse than what some of the figures and stuff that they have here. Illustrating here, you can see on the chart rising costs, flat project prices. So what they're illustrating with this red bar here is where bid prices were they was anticipated. Remember I talked about that 4%. Now this is kind of a national thing, so this is not for the Iowa market, but it's just as important for the Iowa market. And this just talks about the time period between May 2020 and May 2021. So things have gone even farther beyond what this data is showing here. But you can see the red is where contractors have predicted things would be, and the black line shows the differential 24.3% over what things were thought had been. Okay. So looking at just some of the individual things that are contributing to that, really high. Now lumber has come down a little bit. It's not gone down to the rate that it was, but it has come down a little bit. But steel, copper, aluminum, all those things continue to inflate, and the price index for some of those things have jumped 111%. So that just gives you kind of an overall market for 2 items within a list of a whole bunch there, and it goes on down the line. Fuel is or the pump. All those types of things add up together. So what I did was I went back to projects that we have designed, that we've done, and kind of do an estimate here, because what I'm trying to do is illustrate that this $235 a square foot was actually budgeted properly, but the market now has kind of taken over and really boogered up a lot of things for a lot of people across the state. Not just every school district. This is not a Boone issue. This is a state of Iowa issue. Thank you for moving the meeting a little bit earlier tonight. I'm on my way for another meeting to have this very simple conversation. Not just Jill argument, it's not just Ryan, it is every contractor, every architect, every owner in the state of Iowa. So to put things into perspective, you can see over here on the right, Boone High School. So we did your project here in 2012. And I want to show you a little bit of history of the other things that were happening at that time period. So Gilbert High School, they bid in January. North Polk did a high school in February, and then really in October. And you can see here in 2012, the average price there was all about the same. 115.92, 115.45. The market was pretty stable at that point. So then what I did was average 4% inflation estimate over time. Some years it's higher, some years it's lower. And what I did is I just put the time value money, escalated all those things. So you can see down here at 2021, this time period scenario, 226, 225. So based on this market analysis, the 235 that we budgeted for you is actually over that, right? We just bid, let's see, oh, sorry, Urbandale Elementary number 1, a new elementary. And then just a little time later, you're like elementary school, which there's a lot of similarities to your project. In 2019, $214. So if I go back one period here, 2019, okay, we're starting to see a little bit of inflation. It was projected to be 209, 208. Okay, but Urbandale was at 214. Still, if you use the time value money and you move forward 2021, 231. Okay. Fast forward a year to Storm Lake again, which is the use as a precedent for your project in May of 2020. But that bid at $221 a square. Things actually went down. If you look at the time value of money there, it's 230 a square foot. So we set your budget in about October. So we were still within the parameters of that solution. Okay. Now we have some interesting data as of about a week and a half ago. So Urbandale is consolidating elementaries in 6, they're going to 4. These buildings are identical, not in shape, but in material, in cost, in work, in amenities, and all the things, aspects of it. They're identical buildings. You don't get that chance very often. 118,000 square feet. It's a 2-story building, same geographical location, same products. Remember, Urbandale 1 bid at 214 a square foot. On September 2nd, 2021, that same project bid at $278 a square foot. We had multiple bids that day. I won't even tell you what the high number was. Okay. We figured out that in the last 2 years, the annualized rate was 14% for this area. Now, if you remember, I showed you this at home, it was 24% nationally, just from May 20 and May 21. So, is there a silver lining here? We're doing pretty good. But it's about 14%. That's not lands, doing, that's not losing, that's not any growth. That's a huge number. That's a huge gap. So what I wanted to do is just illustrate some of that for you, and to kind of put together an order of magnitude, right? Because where do we go from here? How do you recover? What do you do? So again, your original boom estimate or your budget was 80,000 square feet. At that 235 was about 18.8 million. Current budget, what we just worked with Lang, from the leaves on, we've been able to tighten up your building of your program. Doesn't mean that you've lost something, it means that there's efficiencies, right? We estimated that we could be at about 80,000. That's the whole process of going through redesign, schematic design, design development, or about 79,000 and a half. On the budget that was put together here just in the last couple of weeks, again, prior to that September 2nd, actual bid value, $75 range. Positive from 25 per million. So as an order of magnitude, sometimes it's hard to count. Like, well, what does that mean? How do you put that in perspective? So all I did was I put together some building components, just to give you an idea and understand what I should be doing. We went through some value engineering things that Andrew showed you our choices. All of these buildings, in Storm Lake and Urbandale and Norfolk and Gilbert, and you're building there not the front of the hall. They're color things, color the walls, ceiling tiles and stuff. They may look expensive. That's kind of the point is we're doing our job to getting a very vibrant building and a very low time at a low cost. But just to give you some of those ideas, so one grade level pod, I can give a multi-grade level building. We just one of those costs for 4.9 million. Generally, those are running in the, they have been running in the $40 square foot. We're now at $50 square foot range. Your electrical system will be low. Those numbers are usually running in the $21, $22 square foot range. They're now 30. Gymnasium. Why is it not figured up to 275? It's a bigger volume. You don't have as much finishing and stuff going on inside. see if we can discount those things a little bit, but, you know, $2 million. And then parking stalls, as the parking lot was about almost $500,000 for the parking lot. Understand, it's kind of how it works. So what I'm trying to explain and show you is that but when they grow at that rate, at a 14% every year, nobody can combat that. That's a hard thing to overcome. And we are looking at materials and finishes, but it's not a finish issue. I think it's so. So those are the things, the challenges that we as a project team your dream school. And I don't have a silver bullet. I don't have the, but I wanted to call this to your attention and be aware of what's happening in the market. And again, don't shoot the messenger because every district in Iowa is having the same problem today. And things project, they're not getting any better as we look down the pipe. Earlier this year, people were kind of saying, just let me get through this. Not allowed. Now, when I talk to people, they're like, January. You got awesome bids for your regrading contract, building kind of work and things like that. There's essentially labor, there's not a lot of material costs built into that.
But and on that, right?
So
Yeah.
we can go back and we can revisit, any items that you
This one?
First meeting, there was a lot of multiple.
Yeah, the overall class, I think reduced around 10%. So while the roof line still has an east valley, if you went straight as a third story, there might be marginal savings. It's not like a yard again, and we've gone through it. Our in-house estimating team and looked at what can we cut, what can we change. It's the coolest building. I mean, it looks good. They did a really good job with the materials they have. And it's, you cut it down, it's steel masonry. Dollar amount per square foot is really not going to change market.
Just to give people an idea, what was the value of the 10% reduction on glazing? Because I think it's a big amount of glazing for, you're not really saving a lot of money. I think people might be interested in.
So one of the examples to answer your question pretty directly here is on this roof line here. So if we flatten this out, we still have this beam, we still have this beam, we still have this beam. So what we did is we did a detailed analysis back at 9 feet to say, okay, what is that really costing us, right? Because there's, this glazing is taller than this glazing, this taller than here. So what we did was we figured out what the linear foot of steel, the height differential, the glazing differential, and we wound up, I think, reducing the height of that structure by. In order to keep this line here, that was about a $50,000 savings. In order to get the same look with a slightly lower height. So you still have all those components that still have to be there, that still have to hold up the roof. You still want to introduce some daylight into the space. Typical daylight only penetrates a room or space about 25 to 30 feet. Okay. So your building is much wider than that. And so when we talk about that middle area, in order to get daylight, and then you've got to use some other traditional pieces. Cafeteria. We've looked at some of those things very, very detailed. And okay, in order to maintain that, how do we do that? Well, we lowered it, and you still have the.
I think that my point is the problem we're gonna have is people are gonna see that we're over budget, which we are, and they're gonna assume it's a complex building and it's finishes. But really, if we took the whole gym away, we'd still be $1 million over budget because of the market. I mean, that's the kind of drastic situation we're in. It's not because we have a lot of glass or a little bit of glass. It's because of the unique situation we're in. I would like everybody to kind of have the same message that,
We've gone through it. I
Yes.
mean, we have gone through it with a fine tooth comb. We took off square footage of the office space. We've cut down the offices and classrooms that we don't need. I mean, this isn't a splurge. This isn't there's nothing left that's magical. And I mean, it's beautiful and it should be for our students, but there's nothing, everything that we've looked at has been to be fiscally responsible for our constituents as well. And so I think that's the.
and they cut like, I don't know, was it $500,000 up through the first value engineering session? That's a hard thing to do in 80,000 square feet. I mean, I was really impressed with some of the decisions that were made. It's just where we're at right now.
I just important for the board to ask some of these questions, not to move in here, for the public to hear, that we've done everything we can to keep this as close to budget as possible. But the inflation we're getting right now,
We could have less aesthetically pleasing materials, but they aren't going to be cheaper. So I think that's the message we're trying to get across, is that we've done that work to decrease the costs as much as we can. So just because it's pretty doesn't mean it's expensive, because that's usually what people think. They could be less aesthetically pleasing and be just as expensive.
And the thing that we're combating right now is in a normal scenario, we make those reductions. So we talk about we have more reduction. Usually have a year or 2 years before you inflationary get to that. And we're seeing those numbers like down in a matter of a month. Project and vendors are calling and saying normally we have vendors hold their bids for 60 days. It's we're seeing vendors not hold prices for 48 hours. Yeah, better storage or something. Chips off the coast and getting the port and the truckers and
The other thing maybe you can help me with is I think people are going to want us to wait. They'll say you're over budget, maybe costs will come down, but my opinion is the sooner we can bid this job, the more competitive we'll be to contractors wanting to tackle it first thing in the spring, because our site's going to be prepped. People's pipelines won't be full. Is that a true statement?
that is totally true. And the other piece of that is on cost, but also delivery. So right now we're seeing we did a and it was 6 months to get roofing installation. They said if you don't put your name in the hopper, a year before. So what you're trying to do is secure your spot in time, and time equals money, right? So the longer you wait, you're going to need some of those savings that you're going to see in the scheduling of procurement of product. Double-edged sword right now is, yes, oftentimes, oh, let's wait, let's let the market settle out. But, you know, if you're watching the news again and seeing what's going through Congress and the potentials for other infrastructure type bills and things, the market is saturated, oversaturated right now. If you no skin, right, to the things that can happen, because you're adding more pressure to the supply chain.
The other problem for us is any delays we have is gonna cost us real dollars at Page and Lincoln.
Yes.
I mean, we could easily, let's say we waited 6 months and saved $300,000, we could put that into a roof or something, no problem.
Yeah,
Mhm.
maintenance type things. I don't know.
I have a question about bids. So if we get bids and we take current numbers, and for some miracle, costs go down, do you have an agreement in bid that you just get the bid?
So, yeah, anytime the numbers fluctuate, if they would fluctuate down, the district would be the beneficiary of those lower numbers.
Bill,
They're not saving.
she's asking.
Oh.
I'm saying you bid something for $1,000 and then through some wonderful miracle, things go down and really the cost was only $800. Do you pay the
No.
See, that's what I
It's
said.
locked in, it's on
If I got the,
But on the flip side, if it goes the other way.
Yes, you're the same. If it goes up, you're- So what?
And to reiterate, like DLR's done a wonderful job keeping everything on the schedule. We've got the street grading package out. The December bid time is generally good. Crazy now. So it's a clean site. They can come in March and start rolling. So that's the positive. The waiting is like playing it positive.
Yeah, which term? I'm not gonna down.
That's your 75 square foot estimated as of today or estimated for December, you think? 275.
That was that.
Right now.
And actually, in fairness, it's actually approved, in the loop. Fire does have a approved rating package. About $400,000 estimate for that, so.
272.
Yeah.
Hey, Scorpion is good, Joe's rating on that.
There you go.
Love to hear that.
Deal.
Any other questions for either our architect? Board members, any questions? I believe
We just need a motion to, yep,
approve this page.
We approve the design development phase and proceed with the construction documents.
Okay. Okay, so moved by Ms. Richard, second by Ms. Stevens to phase in order to proceed with the construction document phase. Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
so you can see on your screen, we have all of the bids that were open last week, and we would, as a district, would recommend approval of the pre-grading package. Go to Construct Incorporated at Ames, and you can see the bids that were listed.
Yeah. look these over, feel comfortable. Yeah. And you've worked with Construct in the past, and they're reputable. Yes, moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nyström to approve the Construct bid for the free grading package. 247,226. Questions?
Well, we're excited to see some work.
Very excited to see that. Okay, well, by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Hearing.
So we would just recommend that we set the hearing for the next board meeting on October 11th. Yeah.
Yep.
6:30.
Yeah.
To set the hearing date of October 11th at 6.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Alvin, seconded by Mr. Pritchard, to set the building. Comments, questions, concerns? Favorite signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next. Moving down to the bottom. Lane changes.
Yes, so you have the list of individuals that have attained graduate hours, making them eligible for lane changes for the 21-22 school year, and I would recommend approval for those that were listed in the document.
Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, is there a motion to approve the lane changes? Okay, moved by Dr. Nyström, second by Ms. Stevens, to approve the lane changes as presented. Any discussion? Okay. Discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the Title I services.
Yeah, so fax ed renewal, this is the private schools have utilized fax ed. This is a continuation of that renewal for them to have Title I services in their buildings, and that runs through the public education system. So would recommend approval. These are dollars that are already allocated to our private schools.
Okay, questions, any explanation, any certain board members? Hearing none, is there a motion to this table?
To approve the Title I service renewal for the fax ed program for Trinity and Sacred Heart.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Richard, to approve the Title I services renewal for Trinity Lutheran and Sacred Heart. Any further discussion? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Financial services agreement, 5%.
Correct. So this is just recommending approval for the agreement with Piper Sandler for the 2 bond refunding and the new SAFE bond issue. So it's just agreement to have them be our
Financial
conduit.
advisor.
Yeah.
Questions? Is there a second over here? Okay, it's moved by Dr. Nyström to approve financial service agreement with Piper Sandler. Further questions? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is the dissemination.
Yeah, I'm actually going to let Mr. Lewis share a little bit more about this.
So this is just an addendum to our current agreement that Piper Sandler will do our required annual filings for the 2 refundings and the new sales tax issue. So. Yep. This is one part of it. We'll start in the million hearings here soon. So.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Is there a motion over here?
Move to approve the dissemination agreement addendum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Pritchard, seconded by Mr. Elton to approve the dissemination agreement with Piper Sandler. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next.
So this is back to our elementary school. So this is to allow for Terracon to do testing and special inspections during the pre-grading phase. So I'd obviously recommend approval.
Okay.
And this amount is in the budget already. This is not something that's additional.
Or $7,800.
Yeah.
Okay, questions? Okay, it has been moved. Action seconded by Mrs. Stevens to approve Terracon for construction for special inspection. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Next is the make-up lease extension.
Correct. So this is an extension agreement for where our homeschool assistance program is. Our lease is officially up on July 31st. And this allows us to stay until we would leave that premises at the cost that's listed in the agreement, so that we aren't held to that hard date of July 31st. So if we exit in August, we'll be able to do so. We'll simply pay by the month.
That per month rate going up for this?
It's an agreement that the owners and we as the district have come to have some flexibility in that term, because it was originally set to just end on the 31st, and we would typically just renew for a whole year. And we had asked for that flexibility with some of our plans. So they were kind enough to oblige and agree to that extension agreement.
Our current lease is 3 years, so
Yeah.
this doesn't bind us to another 3 years.
Questions, from other board members?
Yeah, next is the
Yes, yep.
Is there a motion on the floor to approve this?
Move to approve back approving lease extension.
Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Pritchard's motion, Mr. Elton seconded to approve the lease extension for the makeup. Discussion. Opposed? The motion passes.
So you'll notice the standing committees that are linked are the committees in which we have solidified new members where it's appropriate. As you know, we have tried to have a rotation of membership so that we can allow other members of our community to participate in some of these. You'll notice that public relations is not linked because I hope to bring that back next month, but I wanted you to be aware that we still have that. But I would recommend approving those that are linked as our standing committees because the individuals listed have agreed to participate.
Questions, concerns?
What's that?
There was one.
The materials,
Oh, is
I
it-
think-
Committee has one member that is recommended by,
right,
so we left that part blank.
Right.
Usually,
Recommends that.
board
Yeah,
president.
thank
is,
you.
I believe Jan Western is in the past. And I would recommend that we continue to let Jan Western. On the board member. Question or concern about that?
Remember, CTV.
Okay, and friend, the CTE committee approved, committee and the thorough review committee as Fred was adding board president's nomination. Questions, folks? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passed again. Now, FFA out of state convention.
Hello, everyone. I believe you all have this document linked in the agenda. So for those of you that are unaware, we take 8 students selected that apply to go to this conference each year. Jim Fitzgerald runs a really high-class program here for our students and takes them to the top-notch convention at the end of each October. The itinerary is attached. He takes careful effort in planning in as many stops as possible along his way, so the students are exposed to as many different experiences, whether it's manufacturing or John Deere or Louisville Slugger or the Kentucky Derby. I was kind of wondering where my invite was. But anyway, I'm here to kind of give a quick run through and then see if there are any questions. The students pay $175 a piece, and then the rest is covered by a fundraiser that's done each year previously.
I greatly enjoyed the conference and the new information. Kids have really represented quite well. Issues that I'm aware of.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Pritchard to approve the FSA step as presented. Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Is the ISASP overall what these Ela Test based skills. That's all the old people here.
Just when you got used to the name that changed while you were in, they changed it again. So, the assessment is now, all schools in the state took it in the spring. And, we received our results in August, so right at back to school time, and the state comparatives. And so we tried to organize those for you tonight into a chart. The assessment was given for the first time in 2019, and then 2020 was pandemic time, so we didn't give that assessment, and we gave it again in 2021. So as we present these tonight, I think one thing to remember is it isn't really trends data, because there's a lot happening in between the 2019 and the 2021, and it is only 2 data points with some funky things happening in between. But it is the data that we have, and the data that we are making decisions with to help guide some of the things that we're doing for improvement in our schools this school year that the principals will talk about after I do this overview. So just to help you with what you're looking at, the 2019 and 2021 results at a grade level for Boone, and then at a grade level for the state. So for instance, if you look at 3rd grade, English language arts, which is a reading and a writing test, they write and produce 2 essays, as well as reading, and they get lumped all together into an English language arts score. In 2019, our Boone students in 3rd grade, 9% of those students met the proficient level. In 2021, we can look at that and think curricular wise, what are we doing or what practices do we have in place at 3rd grade that typically support 3rd graders. Then you also can look at the statewide comparison, see are we above or below the state average. And what's interesting there is, again, with 2020, states at some grade levels that our students did not take, and maybe our students took a little bit, like you can see there. 3rd graders didn't score as high as they did in 2019, but at the state level, there was a much larger dip. And that's probably anticipated, thinking that those students are 2nd graders missed the chunk of the last quarter of their school year. And then that's such a pivotal time in learning to read. And I think that's reflected there in some of those scores, but a little less dip in our 3rd grades. Then the other thing that you can do is you're looking at, you can kind of compare at a grade level what's happening to students doing. They're different kids, and the kids in 2021 have kind of gone through some pandemic chaos. And then you can also take a look at a cohort of students if you look diagonally, but you have to skip a line because we didn't give the assessment in 2020. And so, for instance, if you look at the 5th graders, or you look at the, I'll point out one that's in bold there, you look at the 7th graders in 2021, 51% of those students met the provision, and I kind of bolded those because as a cohort in 5th grade, they were lower, so they made growth as a cohort, even though that grade level is shown a lower percent of students meeting the benchmark. So you can kind of see what that looks like, and you can look at statewide cohorts that way too. Again, it's a simple cohort. It's not necessarily we have move-ins and move-outs, but it just kind of gives you a sense of this particular group of kids. Mostly, here's how they did, and 2 years later, here's how they performed. So we highlighted in yellow any places where our group of students were above the statewide average. And then we also kind of put in bold any cohorts of students that made growth from where they were when they took the assessment 2 years prior. And that I want to point out that the 3rd and 4th grade students, this was the first time they had taken the assessment. Because 4th graders would have been 2nd graders in 2019, and 3rd graders would have been 1st graders. And so this is really the first set. There's no comparative data to say those particular cohorts. Where we stacked up against the state and where our kids, how they scored compared to the group of kids at a grade level in the past, compared to themselves if they were in our system So with that in mind, I think I'd like to turn over to the principals. They each kind of prepared a little bit of we got these results in our building based on what we're seeing and where we want to go. So I'm starting with that.
I don't have this data, but my kids definitely lean into this data. So I own this data as much as everybody else does. So we'll have fast scores for you next month. That will be, a little bit more informative, but I wanted to share some of our goals with you too. We have 2 goals for our buildings this year. One is we look at high reliability schools. We have one focus on acknowledging appropriately and celebrating our staff because we know what an impact our teachers and associates and every adult in our building has. So we have one goal around that, growing to 95% recognition on our survey for them. And then our second goal is occasion making students for reading proficiency, level for universal screener, or in the case of TK, we'll be able to use 26 points. So we're really looking at that sound production and some of those. Sure that our core, what every kid is getting, we're using those high yield strategies. Our staff is super supportive of it. We see huge gain in our students being able to manipulate sounds and then moving into phonics and with the phoneme, all of those things. And then we have implemented the numeracy project too, which isn't necessarily literacy, but we know the link for math as well. We had some training at the end of the school year, and then some of our staff met a second time. So, drum roll, when is last week? So our first graders rocked it. Some of our staff is new, and they were done when, and not a single kid was lost. In fact, I asked the first grader, "Do you know where you're going?" It's based off of last year's FAST data and informative data. And then in October, we'll reshuffle based on our most recent FAST data. Kindergarten will start with in a few weeks, or not even a few weeks, a week. And they're going to start with social emotional to build the routines of what win time looks like. So when we have that FAST data for them, we can hit the ground running with our interventions that will support that core that's really, really strong for our students. Data, we know what our kids know, and we're really good at it. That can even impact them more than one-on-one work. So they're already reading and talking about informing data. And then we're going to just work to be really responsive with that, with our problem-solving process or win time, and really looking at that data every 4 to 6 weeks.
Mine's gonna be quite as formal. I feel like when you look at our data, we feel really good about what we're doing, and the data is showing that. So we're gonna keep on doing what we're doing and get better at that. Many of the things that Autumn talked about are things that we're also implementing at Franklin and just continuing that. So we appreciate them laying the foundation for that. A couple of things that we feel really good about is that we were above the state average in all 4 of the areas that we test. So ELA ELA and math for 3rd and 4th grade. The areas where we did have a slight drop, we didn't drop as much as the state average. In the areas where the state grew, we grew more than that. So like Jill said, when you look at the one we focus on the most is that 56% in 3rd grade, which is frustrating, really frustrating to my 3rd grade teachers, and they own that a lot. But when you look at the state, they dropped 15 percentage points in 3rd grade reading. So you never it's hard to kind of 3-point drop as a win, but we feel like we're in a good spot for that and moving forward in the future. So also when you look at some of the demographic challenges I think that we have with our number of students coming back, I feel like we really have some celebrations with our data. One of the things that we're really looking at, especially to address that score that has been lower, definitely lower than we'd like to see in 3rd grade ELA. There's 3 parts of the ELA test. There's a reading, a writing, and then a language usage test. they don't give you full scores for your third graders in each of those areas. So you have to spend a lot of time trying to piece out which area they scored low in. So we believe that it's probably writing that is bringing our scores up. The grade team especially has really working on increasing the volume of writing that our students are doing, so that when it's a hard thing to ask a third grader because that's not how we write. We write by putting together a plan, and then they write a rough draft, and then they edit with a peer, and then they talk to people about it, and then they come back and they go home and they talk to somebody else about it, and they come back and they edit, and then they make a final copy. And this writing is you plan, write, edit, revise, finish all in the span of an hour and a half. So when you look at it that way, we have to just teach them how to be a little bit faster in that process and be able to do that some of that work on their own. And then the volume of writing that they do is going to have to be a little bit more in a shorter time. So anyway, so that's one of the things we're working on, along with a lot of the things that Anna talked about with the comprehension toolkit.
One of the things as we've been focused on, we've really been putting a lot of work into working with the AEA, and we've brought in some of the literacy coaches this year. And we've really started to focus on our core instruction. And so when we're looking at how we can support literacy across the board, at the AEA coming in and working with us on what that literacy looks like within each content area, how we use word work and vocabulary, and not only to increase the learning in that content area, but to give the kids the kind of the stamina and the I have age routine, and I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just gonna take that on staff versus education and make a decision based on it. Every class I learn, we look at vocabulary, we look at the word work, and what's the prefix mean, what's the suffix mean, and I can work through the question and make an educational decision based on, I didn't know it, but when I can work through that, what does that word look like? And so working at that at a core level is something that we've added in this year. We've had some really good lessons as we're working with our standards reference grading. While we're implementing that this year, we've got some pilot groups coming through this year. At the same time where we're doing that, we're implementing literacy. We have Andy Carpenter coming in, that's been working with us, and Aaron Holm, we're spending a lot of numeracy project, working with math. That's where we lost those last year, so we really didn't have any of that. Created those groups the year before, probably 90% of the students that we targeted, we weren't able to get to because of scheduling. So we've always kind of, one of the hard conversations that we had this year with some people is we just always get the specials and you want to do these things, and then sometimes I feel like the scores pay the price. And so we haven't been able to intervene with students because they were in band, orchestra, taking specials. And so we tried to limit that this year to say the education is the most important piece, that things still play a role in your education, instead of just having all band or all music, that they can rotate between band and one of their lab classes for reading. Targeted a group of students that were able to focus on this today. We're working with students on setting goals and how they can get out of those lab classes and what they need to do when they achieve those. All been doing across the board. I think we're year 5 going into our PLC process and standard reference grading. And I think we'll really be able to target better and look at where the instruction needs to be. That place where we're starting to have conversations on YSRG and what does that mean to comparatively with grading. So a great example that I used Friday with a parent was you have two students take the same test, no matter what content area it is, and it's 10 questions on the test. And one teacher does 10 points on the test, and one teacher does 50 points on the test. And
gets 0 out of 10. 0% on the traditional grading. They got some right, maybe there's 5 questions on each one. And one teacher, you get 2 out of 5, so you get answer 2 of the 4 questions, and you get 2. And if you get all 4 right, you get an extra point for getting all 4 right. So when you get to the end of that, one student might have got 40 out of 50 right, and they were 80%. And then the other student could have taken the same test and got 40 out of 50 right, and got 0%. So how do you identify the learning as a teacher of what they missed, or what the gap is, or what that area of need is? So with our standards reference grading, we're able to look at what is the essential skill, what have they missed, what is the deficit that they need to address in, instead of point chasing and look at those things and comparing them. And that's just 2 teachers example. In any given building, now you multiply that times 40 different teachers and the grading that takes place. It's so hard to identify 2,000 students. So I'm excited to be able to move forward with that, to be able to target the learning interventions, the literacy work we're doing. I'm really excited for this year and how that's all coming together. And finally, early only year of learning and targeting right. So,
Good.
That's for last, for sure, and shortest. So we have 2 main interventions that we're currently using to respond to this data. Number 1 is our tier 2 win time intervention. So our teachers are only selecting students for skill deficiency during win time. We don't do any focus study halls. It's not a makeup work time. It is only meant for teachers to intervene for students that are struggling in the skill or within the content. The way we were able to do that is we also created our lunch intervention system for students that are missing assessments. One of the issues I've heard over the years in doing standards is that, well, students don't value all because it's not graded. And we are helping them realize the value of their practice by intervening when they don't turn stuff in and they come up here with their lunch, and our teachers do their lunch duties up here and provide support and instruction and scaffolds for those students to finish their assessments, because we believe that we have great teachers hired, and if students are doing the assignments and assessments that our teachers are assigning them, that they'll perform better on any standardized test we're required to take, whether it's the ISAP or the Iowa Test of Basic Skills. Yeah, and we're helping.
Right, so I think that goes towards some of those concerns that, you're not doing. Hold on to the benefit, but you don't want to do it anymore.
Use the example of practice. If you're on the football team and you don't do any of your practice for the week, you're not playing in the game. It's the same way we wouldn't be setting you up for success if we allowed you to compete in our game at the end of the week or our summative assessment without all the practice. Great.
Question from board members. I appreciate the presentation from our principal.
The test is really. An hour and a half for that half.
So it's not officially timed. They're supposed to complete it in one setting, so figure how long one setting is for a third grader. Probably not an hour and a half.
No, our
Our instructional blocks typically are an hour or less.
Okay, I just wondered because the way kids start out and go through their own process, it would not be uniform at all.
But that, because we knew we had 2 writing prompts and we had meant to target them to be separate. But then when they got into the test, there was nothing that stopped them from. So, looked at how we're organizing that. But it would have been hard to do it in two settings, let alone all in one.
Quality of the writing and also the volume of the writing that we have to increase so that they have the stamina to be able to complete those. And not just for the assessment, but they just have to be able to write so that they're prepared when we send them to fifth grade to write more. And, you know,
Let's do kind of an informal 5-paragraph assessment. Paper. I think that was a middle.
So for us, third grade is we require a well-written paragraph, one well-written paragraph, topic sentence, and transition to details, conclusion, and then fourth grade, we transition that into a multi-paragraph essay. Take that one paragraph and transition that into a multi-paragraph essay. Now, that's not to say everyone's there, but that's what we're working on.
Yeah, then they're working on that. Essay with the introduction, building that stamina, increasing the writing.
Thank you very much, administration. Look forward to hearing more reports next month. Next is a minor student school life.
Sure, I don't know, Mr. Bailey may have some more information, but this is an application that was submitted to the high school as a result of a medical concern with regard to the parent, I believe, being able to provide transportation. They aren't able to, and they're looking for an exception to the school permit rules, and that has to go through the board. And so you have the application along with the doctor's note. Yeah.
Or administrative content.
A minute.
I have here.
Mhm. Yeah, it's under
I will
administrative
grab-
content. Here's, here, it's in the, that's the button.
Yes, I've been on board for 8 years. That come through. And my concern is, if I look at the address, it's within 3 blocks of one of our buildings, and then we go to the end of our building. Get on a bus, come over to high school. And it's probably 1-minute walk. Okay. And here.
First time we've had this, I think, at the high school, that this has been a request, so it's new to all of us.
You remember? History major.
I don't know. How old is the student, was the question?
We have a student trying to get a.
We think a freshman. Yeah.
Student, right.
Mhm. Why do they not have? They said they don't have.
Are you guys signed
content.
in? You guys should be
You have
signed
to be
in.
signed in to get it.
That request is that.
They look, yes. That's the request. Sophomore, okay. They're a sophomore.
Yeah. I think it's, they say 8/10 of a mile will live on 8/10 of a mile.
No.
Say about
Doesn't
Child
say
does not have a problem.
Asked to drive it, maybe it was a long time ago. But the intent of that is that. And I didn't hear what the exception was. Process. But I think allow that so you don't create a precedent. Stable, or sometimes you have a situation where maybe somebody's going through cancer treatment and they're not able to get their kids to school, or something medically like that, you make an exception.
We don't know what it is, other than that there's a medical issue.
Figure that's all that's the question.
I always feel like we add onto a family's situation negatively. That just could create more. Basically, always my concern. I don't know how far it is.
0.9, so it's 0.1 less what's the requirement is.
It's 0.9, so
It's
it's
a little mile.
approximately 10 miles.
Does administration want to offer an opinion? Or is this would you prefer this to be strictly a board decision?
So, you wanna,
You go ahead.
If you want the board decision, that's fine.
I'm fine with it staying a board decision, but I think the process of going through the board is a necessary enough hurdle to keep it from being something of opening up a can of worms, kind of to your concern. I don't think we're setting a negative precedence by allowing a medical exemption through the board. If we have 5 in a year, which I think would be a ton, I think we would be doing our community a great service if we allow people to get and not have to stress their family out. If we get some sort of medical note for a doctor.
That's the reason why they put that, not. Even fall just outside of that, we've had so many like that literally like live this person on this side of the street didn't qualify in the other. If you happen to live, if you're inside of that, you know, you're kind of out of luck, so. If there really is truly a need that's been medically verified, then that's the reason why that makes sense.
And to add on to that, this isn't like a food decision, it's the IOPOT who establishes these rules for us and what we follow and approve. My 3 years of approving those, it's the first time I've ever had a request for medical.
Mhm.
And I was gonna ask.
Mhm.
Brian's never encountered it. We have- I would make a motion to accept this request. Right.
Okay, it's moved by Dr. Neisner and seconded by Ms. Stevens to approve the student request. Further discussion.
You want to do roll call or?
Um, Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes 4-1.
So I'm going to end us on a good note. Governor Reynolds came to visit with our students today, and I'm going to let Mr. Bailey and Mr. Johnson share out some of the positive pieces, because the kids, I just need to share that what I observed were our students doing a phenomenal job of explaining what they were doing to Governor Reynolds. It was just a regular day to them, and she came and got to see what it looks like on a regular day. It was pretty amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and let them share their thoughts. They were able to see that as well. There are, for anyone who's listening, there are pictures on the website as well, so you can see some pictures with our students, with the governor as well. But she had very positive things to say, but I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Johnson and Mr. Bailey share.
So first, I'm really proud of our staff and students for being incredibly flexible and responsive. We found out I was in a meeting when the governor's office called, and so I found out around 2 o'clock that she was interested in coming today on Friday. So we had a couple hours before everyone left, and then the weekend. So I was really proud of staff and students for being prepared to house and host the governor today. She was caught up in another event, so then I was also proud of our staff and students for being flexible. She was here for about a half an hour, met with Lindsay Hyman and our EDGE students, met with IJ. Jim Fitzgerald was at a training in Ankeny, so he was not here, but we took her down to our Metalworks area. Not only because it's an area of pride of ours, but also because it's kind of a cramped space. And so we wanted her to see some of our constraints and what we're trying to grow and improve. She's really proud of future ready initiatives in Iowa. And I think in most cases, Boone's leading the way in those. So it was really great for us to showcase what all of you have been doing and putting in place. And I just kind of got to reap the benefits of a couple months in, so thanks.
She was very complimentary to Boone in general and had some ideas that she shared with us, as well as to maybe some other avenues to continue to expand. And so we will be following up with the governor's office as well as Dr. Lebo's office on some of those potential avenues to try and continue to expand our programming. So we were very excited to host and proud of our students as always, but it was nice to let them see that other people were proud of them and not just us. And
well, I need to mention Boone TV too.
Yes.
We had 2 girls following around with cameras, and they did an amazing job and got in 2 great questions before students dismissed, and then had a left, and it was a great opportunity for those really well.
I think that's going to add on to too, is like the evidence of our students getting those soft skills with like EDGE and IJAC, being able to advocate for themselves, clearly communicate what they're doing, what their purpose is, and EDGE and IJAC. That was very evident today when they got to speaking to them, and they were able to communicate their purpose and all these different opportunities they get for these programs. So those Boone TV kids at the end, like saying, "Okay, I gotta go." But actually, we do an interview.
It's like a real reporter. One more.
Yeah. So
They totally
awesome
did.
to see that and their confidence. So.
And they did do a phenomenal job. And I also said to John, I think what you were standing next to me, when the bell rang, students are used to seeing cameras in our building because they were not fazed at all by the fact that there was a camera and the governor talking. And so I think that's also a testament that Boone has had the opportunity to kind of showcase what we have going on here. And so that was pretty impressive. So we're very happy with the visit that we had, and we hope to continue to have more opportunities like that.
Well, I thank everyone for coming tonight. We've got a couple closed sessions, so everyone else gets to go home early. We started early tonight. And the rest of us hope they're going to get to go home soon too. We'll take 5